What's going on, everybody? It's ShamefulPenguin here, back with another video. Today I'm going to be going over some major TCG changes to the competitive game once Sword and Shield comes out. So none of these changes take effect until February 21st. So keep that in mind. If you're doing any local tournaments or any league play or anything, you don't have to abide by these rules. I don't want you to accidentally think you can't do any of the or have to abide by any of these rules if you're playing anytime right now until then. So just keep that in mind. I want to make that priority. And anyways, let's get started into it. So once Sword and Shield comes out, all these rules will be enacted. The first rule I'm going to go over is pretty much the reason I'm making this video. There's the huge major rule. There's a lot of other big rules in here, but this is the big one. First, it's called rule change first turn. So since X and Y, the rule was introduced that prevented players from attacking on their first turn. Now, in Sword and Shield, once in February 21st, 2020, starting then, the player who goes first cannot play a supporter card either. This is a huge rule change. Decks, pretty much any decks in the standard format, very few of them I can think of that wanted to go second. Pretty much everyone wanted to go first. It was strictly better to go first in pretty much every scenario. And now this just creates variation. So decks that set up with Professor's Oak setup or Professor Elms and want to get a bunch of Pokemon on the board, maybe cards like maybe not Malamar, I don't know, just Pidgeot or Pidgeotto decks. Just decks that want to get their board laid out or have control. Maybe they want to start thinking about going second. So yeah, maybe decks that use Welder and want to get their big Welder turn so they can play an Energy and Welder on their first turn they're playing. Might want to consider going second, but in general, this makes the game more competitive, more strategy based, other than just based on who wins the coin flip goes first. Basically, that's how it felt like. And now it pretty much is going to change that up, because if you can't play supporter turn one, you most likely might have a dead hand where you can't play anything and you just have to rely on card draw for your next turn, which really sucks. So this also is going to promote, in my opinion, the use of Jirachi. Jirachi is going to be huge because it's going to the decks that still will want to go turn one will probably play Jirachi and hope they draw it turn one so they can use its ability, so they're never like relying on card draw. So yeah, just look out for that rule. Make sure you know that's going to happen on the 21st, because that's a pretty big change for most decks and will affect the way you play most likely. Rule number 2 really makes sense. Weakness is changed from -30 instead of -20 because of the huge HP increases on Pokemon. It really makes sense, and that's a good rule change in my opinion. It makes the game a little more standard and fair. They also changed weakness. So water type used to be weak to lightning. Now it's going to be grass. Psychic type are going to be weak to dark instead of psychic. And dark are going to be weak to grass instead of fighting. If you guys don't know this already, dark types are going to be poison types and dark types. They're no longer psychic types. Poison has shifted what type they're going to be once again. In the early generations of Pokemon, they were grass, and then they went to psychic for a long time, and now it's switched. Poison types are going to be represented by dark. I didn't really understand this rule at first until you read the second rule, which I'm going to go over right now, is that fairy type is no more. Fairies are going to be represented by psychic types. This kind of makes sense why poison was changed, and I also kind of find this to be a bummer. I enjoyed fairy types as an archetype. Kind of feel bad for Guardian decks. They're going to take a big hit when Sword and Shield comes out, because there's going to be no more fairy type things. Yeah, they're going to get cards like Quick Ball that'll help them, maybe Magnolia, just things like that. That's most likely going to assist them, but they're not going to get any like fairy type Welder cards or anything anymore, because fairy type won't be a thing. And also fairy type Pokemon won't be printed. It'll be psychic. So just Guardian's going to take a little bit of a hit from this, and I kind of feel bad because I enjoyed the Guardian deck. Next thing is card errata. This is kind of big, especially for expanded decks mostly, is that all cards that said 2, like energy removal or retrieval, said put 2 basic energy cards from your discard to your hand. Now it's up to 2, so you get to choose. This rule pretty much for all of these. Lumberry, at any time between turns, it's like at the end of each turn. Just things are changed minorly. Shuffle up to 2 other than shuffle 2. Hyper potion heal 120. Yeah. And then quick ball actually had a major change. It's completely different. Quick ball, old school quick balls from Majestic Dawn and Mysterious Treasure is going to read as the new card text that's going to be printed in Sword and Shield. So you can play your old, if you have this card, you can use this card in your standard decks now because of the card errata. And if you're worried about it, don't do it. But if you want to show off, be flashy, and then people don't think it's fair, you can show them this. It's on the official Pokemon website, so it's all good. It's all legal. Another small change is Professor Sycamore and Juniper pretty much are reprinted into Sword and Shield with the Professor's Research. And all cards for other generations that are going to be printed are going to be called Professor's Research. There's not going to be any names of professors printed anymore, except for the little italicized version next to them. This just makes the game a little more consistent to play, and just easier to understand, so you can reuse cards in the future. Pokemon Checkup is the phase between turns. Other than it being called between turns, it's going to be called Checkup, and they're going to make it a little more structured on how you do it. The special condition check will be checked in the order of poison, burn, asleep, and paralyzed. That's the order you have to do it in. Not many decks you're going to be worried about doing them in order, because there's not many decks that rely on status, but there are some like Venusaur and Vileplume, I think, that play with status conditions a lot. Mareep. So yeah, if you run into this, try to remember the order. If not, I don't think it'll matter too much unless you're in like a big tournament. Check abilities and effects of trainer cards that happen during Pokemon Checkup. So you're gonna check the abilities and stuff during trainer checkup, or during Pokemon Checkup, and these can be interchanged. So you can check your ability and trainer card and then do special condition, or you can do your special conditions and then do it. It's just so you can't use your ability between any of the checking for status conditions. Like you can't add poison damage, flip for burn, and then use your trainer ability and then flip for asleep. So it just makes it a little easier. And then also of course at the end of Checkup, you check if you're knocked out. Recovery just changed. Not really changed, it's just changed the name. It's other than heal or remove 3, it's going to be called recovery. So going forward, they're just going to use the term recover, make it a little more simple. I don't know the reasoning for this change, but they have their reasons, so we're going to respect it. Reminder of text removal. So they're going to remove text. You've seen this on quite a few cards with the parentheses before you attack. They're pretty much removing that because it's kind of like a no-brainer. Like once you attack, your turn's done anyways. So it just makes the cards less lengthy, and it was kind of unnecessary. It was a little reminder, but they're getting to the point where they don't feel like they need to remind you, and I don't feel like I need a reminder, so we're all cool. Regulation marks is the last thing. So they're gonna be adding this little D. Let me zoom in a lot. I lost it. That didn't work out. So you see this little D? They're gonna be adding that to the new cards. Wow, I scrolled the wrong way. My bad. Just so that they can be used in standard format. It'll get more attention in the future, but now just take note it's there. They might change the letter in there that denote different standard rotations or in different expanded rotations. They might use that to denote that. They might use it to denote reprints of cards. You've seen cards be full art reprinted in future sets, like Lusamine was printed in Crimson Invasion. Don't get mad at me if I'm wrong. And then in full art was reprinted in Ultra Prism, or I think it was around Ultra Prism. So the thing is, Lusamine's standard is in standard because of the reprint of full art. I don't know if they're trying to make this a more structured way to denote that it's legal with the little stamp in there. Not really sure, but we'll see. They're probably going to explain more in the future, but that's cool. And yeah, that's pretty much it for it. Just the biggest thing basically was no supporters turn 1. Crazy rule changes at the meta. I hope this video helped you guys out, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you later. Bye.